What's up, Vintage Moto fans? Bill Wheeler here, Wheelhouse Garage. We got a super fun episode today. We're going to learn about Cotton motorcycles, do a little bit of work on this bike, and then we're going to take it for a spin. Alright, so this is a 1966 250cc two-stroke Cotton trials bike. Purchased a couple weeks ago at the Mecum auction, and you may have seen my YouTube short from earlier this week. This bike literally just took some fresh gas and a few kicks and it fired right up. Sometimes you just get lucky like that. But at the minimum, it will need a new front tube. So let's get this thing up on the rack. Let's get some new rubber in there, and while we're doing that, I'll talk about the history of Cotton and a little bit more about this bike. Alright, now if you've never heard of Cotton motorcycles, don't worry, you're in the majority. But it's an old British manufacturer from Gloucester, England, started in 1918 by Mr. Frank Willoughby Cotton. And he started designing triangulated frames for motorcycles actually in 1913. And like most early British motorcycle manufacturers, they used alternate engines for their motorcycles like Blackburns and JAP motors. And they had some early racing success, like winning first, second, and third in the 1926 Isle of Man Lightweight TT. So I'm not quite sure if you can see this, but this is pretty neat how this works. The axle is slotted, and once you have it lined up, you just slide it right down through the little pinch opening. Pretty cool. Now, how can I move on from here without talking about these leading link forks, which might look funky to you if you're not familiar with bikes from the 60s and 70s, but you may have seen this style fork on a BMW or a Greaves or something like that. These leading links were manufactured by a company called Armstrong, and leading links are cool. Despite their look, they're usually lighter than telescopic forks of the day. And they've got some cool attributes as well. They rotate like this, so you have this arm, there's a shock in here, and they rotate like this. And they have less stiction than telescopic forks, and they also didn't bend back when they hit obstacles. So really strong, lightweight, no stiction option. So in the 1930s, Cotton started using Villiers motors. And then fast forward a bit, 1953, Frank Willoughby Cotton retires, the company gets reconstituted, and then after that they're really focused on scramblers, trials bikes, and other racing bikes. In 1956, they released their first dedicated trials bike, and then in 1960, they released the first one with the 250cc 32A model Villiers motor, which this one has. Another cool thing that we got lucky on is this bike has the correct 67D type trials version of the 32A motor. Got it around the rim lock there, just start pushing it on. This is a worn-in tire. Actually, I probably should have given this a little bit closer inspection. This tire's pretty cracked. But we've come this far, so let's just keep going. This is a great tool. This is a Motion Pro Bead Buddy 2. Slide it in there, hook it around a spoke, and it will keep your, it's like having an extra hand. It'll keep that bead in one place for you while you walk around the last bites here. This is another great tool from Motion Pro, the Pro Fill Air Chuck. Got a swivel head on it. Okay, we're almost done here. So just to kind of put the cap on the Cotton story, unfortunately by the late 60s, Villiers motors were no longer available, and Cotton tried to use a Minarelli motor, which didn't work out great. couple of commendable attempts to carry the company through the 70s and 80s, but even an attempt to resurrect the company in the 90s, but none of them really worked. But the good thing is we still have awesome survivors like this to look at and ride and enjoy. So speaking of which, I think it's time to fire this thing up, take it for a spin. That's good. It's an interesting bike. There's a couple things on it that are a little weird. The foot pegs, like on this side, I have to kind of bow my leg to get around this big expansion chamber. And man, it would sure benefit from a little bit more trialsy type tires. But overall, really fun bike. The suspension works great. The motor, I probably need to turn down the idle a little bit too. That's a little bit high. But this is a very capable bike. It'd be a super fun trials bike. Had to have a little bit of fun with it. See you next week.